Hello and welcome back. Welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh, and in this video we shall discuss the feature news for today. Today's feature news is on a very important and significant article, the multi-pronged and multiple strategies used during the times of war, the hybrid war strategy, which goes far beyond the conventional wars. Good evening, Bhavani. Hi, Amlan, Hima, Netra, Preeti, Kim, Vivek, Ashish, all of you, welcome back. Hi, Tiyasha, welcome back. Kanupriya, you too. Niranjan, welcome back. All right. Yeah, there's a discussion on Bizu. All right. And also Gomti. Until a few days back, I only knew that Gomti was one of the tributaries of Ganga passing through Lucknow, but only when one of my friends posted a photograph from Gomti, I thought that they're visiting Gomti. But then there was so much of greenery around, and the next day they say they are in Agartala, and that's where I thought, how come such a short period of time and then they're there? And only then I realized my friend had posted that as an update, and then that's when I realized that I asked them, how come Gomti is so green firstly? And then how come you travel to these two places so quickly from Lucknow to Agartala? It takes quite a while. And this is where they said the Gomti is also a district in Tripura. And that's where I asked, what are you doing these days? I had known that they are a part of Indian Revenue Service. And then they said, now I am a part of the Indian Police Service. A very old friend of mine, 2012-13. We don't even know. We are not in touch, but feels great to know his service was upgraded at the last moment because there were some people who backed out. So this is the update, Gomti from the state of Tripura. All right, causes to which we can dedicate our lives. Some images that we have seen, I have seen personally when I was small, when my house was getting constructed. Small children working, almost similar age as I was. Yet I could see those small children, and those impressions are still fresh in my mind. Whenever I go to a dhaba and I see small children working, there is so much of awareness in the families that families refrain from, and they have taught their small children to say that they go to school, whereas they don't, because it is a legal obligation at many places that the children should not work at even family household business. But then there was a later introduction or an amendment in the act which said that children can work in their own family businesses provided they are going to schools. But this is one cause that I can dedicate my life to. I can also dedicate one of the possible causes. This is one of the most heart-wrenching sights for me. Women working as laborers in agriculture or in construction sites along with carrying small children in their backs. Who would be able to do this? Carrying additional load all the time. This is heart-touching. This not only happens in India but many other countries, African countries. Women carry their child all the time. This is where we need creche facilities. Right? This is not just applicable for India. You see this happening in Africa as well. Right? Causes to which we can dedicate our whole lives. Old persons, old age homes, the same parents who while they were of younger age, right, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they were living with the children. But then later on the children themselves asked the parents or made them move to old age homes. Right? Nobody to take care of them, nobody to be there during these times. These are some causes we can dedicate our whole lives to, right? Very thoughtful, and this is what civil services is made for. There are ministries made for women and child. There are ministries made for old age and social assistance programs are there for this, right? So this is an opportunity for all of us to work into, right? All right, let's begin this conversation then. The feature news for today is on changing nature of warfare. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has brought to fore the possibilities of an unprecedented armed conflict around the globe. See, and this conflict is not just that of arms. This is also that of strategy, economy, cyberspace, internet availability, a lot of other things included in itself. And before we proceed, let me show you this image. There is something common in all these images. There is something common in all of them. Can you tell me what is that? The CoWIN portal, voting pattern in USA, Air India, Saudi Aramco, Mumbai. There is something common in all of these cities, that is that all these cities all the places received some or the other level of cyber attack. A kind of warfare imposed on at these places or these institutions, yet they were not the conventional warfare where armed forces conflicts were there between two countries or two sides, right? It was alleged that US elections were rigged with the help of Russia. It is also true that Air India site was hacked by hackers. So was Coven portal. Imagine the data of enormous amount of population. Even Dr. Reddy's website and its database was hacked. Dr. Reddy's, India's one of the important medical fraternity institutions, Dr. Reddy's. Mumbai's power outage a year back, the whole city was out of power for a while. So were the issues in Saudi Aramco, and not just here. The JBS meat packaging, one of the largest institutions in the world for processing of meat industry, owned by USA, and then packaging from various parts of the world, Australia, Europe, Argentina, Brazil, their database and their system was hacked. And so was Saudi Aramco, and so were many other companies from USA. In fact, if you see this rate of such attacks in India, it has dramatically increased in these times. The increase is that of 20 times in the last 4 years. There were 53,000 such cases, and now we have got 11 lakh cases in 2020, and I'm not even speaking of 2021, right? Number of cyber attacks in thousands. So this is 1100,000 amounting to 11 lakh plus, and we had only 53,000 attacks in 2017. This has escalated because these are the new strategies of warfare. I am speaking of hybrid warfare, which includes not only the conventional war, but along with that, a lot of other propaganda. For example, strategic warfare, financial warfare, psychological warfare, information, space, cyber, biological, economic warfare, all of them inclusive. And more than the muscle power, it includes the brain power. See, these are the times when physical deputation of humans at odd places is not possible, whereas electronic surveillance is possible. Whereas if we are using gadgets, devices, electronics, computers to be able to impose war, they can be hacked as well. Economy is being used as a major tool of warfare. We will discuss each of them here in this feature news today. Right now, we've discussed this previously, that America-Ukraine war was just and is just not about the invasion of Ukrainian territory by American forces, ground forces or air forces. This is more than that. This is spreading of disinformation. Remember the difference between disinformation and misinformation? This is a purposeful spread of misinformation from both the sides. Propaganda, right? Possible propaganda that people were persecuted. Maybe the Ukrainians were persecuted, Indians were persecuted, or the Russian origin people in Ukraine were persecuted. Use of proxies in war. Remember, I had told you about how Russia, it is alleged that Russian forces, they wore the uniforms of policemen in Crimea and they enclosed the whole place, and then Crimean referendum was conducted, right? Covert operations, right? Intelligence gathering, cyber warfare, threat of nuclear warfare, all of this amounts to hybrid warfare. So no muscle power, more of brain power and more of strategy building and management of the economy around the war, right? And one of them was intelligence gathering, right? Gathering intelligence from enemy's territory. Even before the invasion happened, I think that was 23rd of February, cyber warfare was already in progress in Ukraine. We have discussed that particular attack that had happened. Can you name that attack that had happened? The name of that ransomware or the malware, yes, the distributed denial of service that was utilized, DDoS that was utilized. Can you name that particular entity? Right? So this is the kind of warfare that the world is indulged into. In innumerable examples: Mumbai power outage, Air India website hacked, Coven portal hacked, Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation website hacked, Sansad TV hacked just a few weeks back. Right, National Highway Authority India's website hacked, Colonial Pipeline, one of the largest pipeline automated in eastern of USA, its website and its complete supply chain was hacked, right? Not only that, JBS Foods, Saudi Aramco is the largest dealer Just like we have NTPC, we have GAIL, they are for Saudi Arabia, and the largest company, even bigger than many of the companies like Tata and Reliance, their database was hacked. Imagine that. USA elections rigged, Indian elections, the use of a company called as Cambridge Analytica to be able to provide election details, campaign details to political parties. All this is what? This is warfare through hybrid means. So traditional warfare versus strategic, each of these words have a huge relevance in themselves. Strategic, financial, psychological, information, space, cyber, biological, economic warfare. What is, if right now there is no proof of the fact that it is China which was responsible for COVID spread, but then if at all it is, this can also be looked into as a possibility of biological warfare spread around the whole world. And there is also speculation that the world and that India will see fourth COVID wave in the month of June, and this could be, not will be, but could be the worst wave, which will be prolonging for 4 months starting from June. July and August will be the peak of it, and this could be the worst of it, right? Possibly, right? There were also articles which refuted this, but IIT Kanpur has said that this could be one of the fourth waves. This is a part of biological warfare in case. Financial, strategic, psychological information, let's understand them. And though the article that we have in the featured news is present in the context of Russia and Ukraine, but then you should also look at what is in for India. And that is why the slides that I have here, I have presented them in the form in which how you should look at the examination process. This is the map of Asia. And a major stakeholder here is in India, and the other major stakeholder is the country of China, right? So one of the warfare that China has imposed strategically around India is that of the formation of string of pearls, right? So through string of pearls, China has ensured that it has at least 6, 7, 8 different ports which are encircling Indian Ocean, right? So we have Gwadar port in Pakistan, then we have Hambantota in Sri Lanka, then we have a port in Myanmar. We also have bases in other countries. Bangkok, Thailand is their friend, better friend than India is, right? The kind of regimen that Myanmar and Thailand have, military, they are more prone to associations with China, right? So these are the countries, and then these smaller countries, Laos and Cambodia, both in favor of China. See, these are the states or countries which are downstream to many of the rivers flowing, Irrawaddy, Salween, all of them. So they need to understand that China has its priorities and they'll have to subjugate themselves. And this, the Chinese flag here is a clear marker of showing that China has increased presence, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? These are the islands, the artificial island China has formed. And then you see the presence in Cambodia, and after that this is Thailand, and then going ahead to other places, China has increased presence in Myanmar and Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, right? One party opposing India and the other party in favor of India, and similarly one party opposing China, the other party in favor of China. And then Gwadar port, and not only ending here, then we have one in Djibouti and going up to the west. China doesn't only have plans to encircle India, it has global plans, right? So the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, or one OBOR, one Belt, one Road Initiative, or whatever you would call as the revival of the old trade routes, right? All of this is a part of China's policy. This is the strategic warfare that China is imposing on not only India, but all the powers which are competing with it, right? Debt trap diplomacy, string of pearls, wolf war diplomacy, all of them are a part of this strategy, right? Strategic warfare, right? Against those economies which are prospering, right? And along with this, along with development of infrastructure, they are also developing economy. They're also giving finances. They're also increasing the trade with those countries. They're also increasing defense partnership with them. Imagine this, securing their interest. So when you look at strategic, financial, psychological, information, space, cyber, biological, economic warfare, we can clearly see that each of them are interrelated. Once we start a strategic warfare, right, covering the other places through strategies, right, physical strategies, it is also becoming into financial and economic warfare, because trading will happen. If trading is economy, then lending is finances. That is also happening. This is leading to debt trap. And this is how Chinese people are able to encroach that particular place. Remember the model in which China invests and the model in which India invest, India and Japan, we had discussed this. So while Chinese model is that of giving loans, the model that India and Japan that they use is that of partnerships. Look at the difference. When we develop partnership, we are also liable and responsible. When China gives only loans, they are not responsible. And they choose those projects where the country or economy is falling, so that they are not able to pay back the loans and debt. And then China says that fine, you're not able to pay back, give it on lease to us for 100 years. This is what has happened to many places. Though not popular, but yet China has gained access to many other places. You have seen that yourself in the image here. So strategic, financial, economic, and this also leads to various other provisions. For example, space capabilities, cyber capabilities, information. Let's understand each of them. And also psychological, right? There's a psychological inkling, or there's a psychological shift of people towards or against a specific country, right? At times, if China favors, towards it, right? So this is the image. But then what does India do about it? Let's understand that as well. We have a necklace of diamonds strategy. When China has string of pearls strategy, we have a necklace of diamond strategy, in which we are trying to partner with other countries. I have mentioned 5 countries. Do you remember this? If you know how to make an image of the Asia map, you must be able to do this, right? So Changi naval base, Changi which place? Changi air base, naval base. This is Singapore, right? So Singapore is one place for these exercises, naval exercises, and also one of the bases India will have in future. Sabang port in Indonesia, right at the entry of the strait. What is the name of the strait? What is the name of the strait here, which is between the mainland China and mainland Southeast Asia and Indonesia? And then we have Edukemy port in Oman. Oman is an old friend for us. Assumption Islands in Seychelles, and Shabar port in Iran. If you are able to look at this, the yellow pointers are indicators of where India has a base. Yellow pointers, 1, 2, 3, Shabar, and then Oman, and then we have Seychelles, and one in Indonesia, and another one here, right here in the corner in Singapore, right? So 5 bases for us. But if you are able to look at this this image shows about the way trade is carried out. One possible way of trade for future is the north-south trade corridor. Possibility of development from India to Russia. But look at this. See, Indian diplomats have clearly said we are not going to view the war in Ukraine from we are not going to have our stand in Russia-Ukraine conflict from the perspective of Ukraine only. We will have multiple approaches to look at this conflict, right? One of them is north-south corridor. Another one is India's presence in the East China Sea region. Another of them is going to the Arctic region. Russia is aiding India in many ways, right? So this is one way you can look at. This is north-south corridor, one of the corridors, potential corridors for India, from Shabar port, right, from Mumbai and Gujarat, Kandla to Shabar port, and then going ahead to Russia. Another way, traditional route, is the one which goes through Red Sea, and then we transit towards the whole of Europe, right? So these are the traditional ways in which we utilize, and India has got some counter mechanisms to China, to its strategic presence. But look at how China has again reinforced its BRI, right? This is the map showing the various arms of the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. This is the maritime corridor that we are looking at, maritime Silk Route. Look at its presence, right? And the same fashion in which China has also spread its strategy, its economy, its defense partnerships, right? And this is multiple arms of the economic corridors, right? So one is spreading to Mongolia and Russia, another spreading into Kazakhstan and Russia. This is the one in which India has an issue, the one which passes through Pakistan occupied Kashmir and then goes to Pakistan, right? CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Another one which is passing through Kaladan and other areas into India, and another one which is going to Southeast Asia, right? You must remember these 7 of them road corridors, and the 8th one is the maritime corridor. And are there counters to it? Yes, absolutely there are counters to it. Did we study European global gateway? European global gateways? That is one of the counters. What about India's Sagar? Although it is a mission in which we haven't financed as much, but deep ocean mission, Sagar, they are all indicators of how India wants to project itself strategically, economically in Indian Ocean, security and growth of all in Indian Ocean region, right? Similarly, America has got its own strategy along with other G6, G7 countries, right? Build Back Better initiative, Build Back Better initiative. Not only that, India, Japan have got an initiative with itself, India, Japan, Africa partnership, right? So these are the counters. UK's Clean Green initiative, Build Back Better, Quad network itself is one of them, right? Japan and Australia are countering along with USA with the Blue Dot network. These are counters to strategy. But then when you see strategy, you must look at finances, information and cyber threats as well. All of them operating together, right? Look at weaponization of trade. We have covered a feature news on this completely, right? How China has imposed a complete ban on Taiwan. How China trades with countries like North Korea, with countries, with now you see Russia as well, with Iran, right? Created special banks for them. And what about Lithuania? Just recognizing the presence of a country is making China feel so irritated about it, right? And giving differential treatment to different countries for trading, right? So weaponization of trade itself, it gives loans to particular countries, and it also ensures that the information war is spread. This is the reason that India imposed restrictions specifically on Chinese origin companies or the Chinese origin investments in India, right? Chinese investments in India were curtailed after knowing that many Chinese companies have started to invest. Yes, okay, their purpose might be only to gain more profits. But then this also coincides with Chinese policy of domination. So we have curtailed their investments. What about their Chinese apps? Many apps and credibility of the instruments that are imported to in our country. The simple example is the phone devices, electronic devices, 5G networks itself. Right? There is a possibility that they have the encrypted versions of the same entities that we import. And that is the reason that India said that we must be importing from credible sources. Look at how China has polarized India-Pakistan relationship by providing Pakistan. See, if India was to fight with Pakistan and Pakistan was to fight with India, this was still possible, fist fight or, close combat. But then when you've helped Pakistan build nuclear arsenal, when you have given them fighter planes, India will have to rearm itself. India will have to spend more in defense, right? Not only that, look at how the Kashmir region has been polarized against the rest of the India, right? This is the informational warfare, psychological warfare that countries have played against India. Psychological warfare, when they are not even utilizing any bit of economy, any bit of strategy, any bit of the hard force, yet they are making Indians fight against India itself. This is psychological warfare in progress, right? And does China also go through a psychological warfare in progress? Absolutely it does. Xinjiang province, Uyghur Muslims. Similarly with Tibet region, the Buddhists, right? India also has got a key there, but does not play as much as China does with the help of Pakistan, right? China also has got certain other ways. For example, conducting the anti-satellite test, ASAT test. China also conducted, and in defense, India had to conduct this. Australia, America, China, Russia and India, 4 powers only have access to anti-satellite tests through which they'll be able to disempower the opposite countries' satellites, right? They also have got the power of water, Brahmaputra's water, which flow into India and later into Bangladesh. They built Three Gorges Dam, they built various other dams and some of them quite often passing through our sources of water. And more than India, it will be Bangladesh which will be facing this downstream. China has also, ensured partnerships with these countries, right? So, with respect to countries like Pakistan, it has got its own partnership, economic partnership, right? Strategic partnership. With respect to countries like Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, they are in debt. With respect to Myanmar and Thailand, the power regimes are similar. With respect to Nepal has got a communist party, and there is a further association between these countries, right? but India also has got its own partnership with these countries. So this is how they both are in tussle with each other, right? The reason that I am moving towards India-China warfare is because the question will be asked of this nature itself, right? When you look at the increased engagements of war or hybrid war, start looking at how there is disinformation spread, propaganda, use of proxies, covert operations, intelligence gathering, cyber warfare, nuclear warfare threat happening, and which is harming India's growth, right? And in fact, these attacks have happened in India also, no? 20-time increase in attacks happening in India, and many of them intelligence is originating from China, right? So this is the reason we must look at the kind of problems that India is going through, right? And look at India ranking in cyber power. India is ranked far low at 21. USA is first, second is China, third is UK, Russia, Netherlands, France, all the developed countries, Japan, Estonia, New Zealand, Switzerland, and India comes at 21 after Malaysia and Vietnam, right? So our defense is not as strong, our offense is not as strong at all, right? And we must look at not only the conventional warfare, which is the traditional warfare, defense development, but economic warfare. Fine, economic we might be able to fight well, but what about finances? Many countries which had to be recipients of India's loan, they themselves said that they are backing, because although there was a declaration made by the Prime Minister, but investments were not made on time. We had to wait, and because of this we had to cancel the allotment and award it later to Chinese. Not only that, even if we are building up strategies, what about the use of cyber warfare? We are only able to withstand the cyber warfare, only able to withstand, not able to impose it on the others, right? Biological warfare, what about space warfare and informational warfare, the spread of disinformation, all of them being spread in our country, and we are more vulnerable during these times. If I show you the questions of UPSC examination, they are also on a very similar track, right? This year itself, I mean the last year, when they asked questions in paper 2, international relation, and in paper 3, internal security, the questions asked were of similar kinds. So you should be very well, you should be able to speculate these kind of questions, because they are based on these things that we study, right? Let's look at these questions. All right. Have a look at this question. Money laundering. This is not a direct question. Money laundering is a different topic, but then part of what is being done in money laundering can also be related to the wars in the country. Elaborate measures to tackle the problem of money laundering both at national and international level. Look at the other question. Keeping in view of India's internal security, analyze the impact of cross-border cyber attacks. Also discuss defensive measures against these sophisticated attacks. What are the defensive measures? And analyze the impact of cross-border cyber attacks. Analyze it, right? Cross-border cyber attack can lead to informational war, can lead to spread of misinformation, can lead to many things that we had not speculated in terms of economic and financial degradation of the country. A lot of impacts, right? All of them related. Look at the other question. And 15 marks here right away. Okay, have a look at this. Analyze the complexity and intensity of terrorism, its causes, linkages, and obnoxious nexus. Also suggest measures required to be taken to eradicate menace of terrorism. Terrorism does not only mean conventional terrorism. Include all these measures that have been used by various countries. They are also being funded in India, right? Include these measures that we have just spoken of, right, in terrorism. And so with internal security, external and non-state actors, analyze the multi-dimensional challenges posed by external state and non-state actors to internal security of India. Also discuss measures required to be taken to combat these threats. Direct question. And this is for 15 marks. I have shown you 4 questions in paper 3. And when you look at international relation, there will be similar nature of questions being asked. This is the last year main examination, my friends. All I am asking you to be is prepared. Be prepared, and then you will see how you will be able to attempt these kind of questions. This is on AUKUS. This is on SCO. Right? What else? There was a question of USA and China. All right. The USA is facing an existential threat in the form of China that is much more challenging than the erstwhile Soviet Union. Explain. See, you can cover this question from the kind of hybrid warfare that China is supposed to or ought to impose on countries. This is the reason that I keep discussing the GDP of the whole world. The defense procurements or defense supplies or defense spendings around the whole world. A clear-cut answer can get generated from them there, right? So start looking at these questions and start exercising your brain towards it, right? So 6 questions which can be addressed through what we keep learning, and this will happen again. This is not a year by year. This is not a single year phenomena. This is a yearly phenomena. This will keep happening all the time till the time you are able to clear the examination, or God forbid, if not able to clear, then till the time you are able to see these papers. So this is the reason that I ask you all the time to revise your portions, right? Well, because at the end I will say that we studied this. Some of you who are revising it, you will be able to get through. Look at the level of defense spendings that are happening. USA spends more on defense than the next 11 countries combined. Who says this? SIPRI, Stockholm says this. So $800 billion spent by USA, and lesser than that spent by next 11 economies. China being the next, and after that India. India, I mentioned yesterday, spends around 70 billion. China spends around $200 billion. $200 billion, and USA spends around $800 billion on defense. And then comes Russia, UK. Although their economies are smaller, but still they spend humongous amount on defense, around 2% of their GDP, right? Around 2 to 3%, 1 to 2 to 3% of the GDP is spent only on defense, right? But when you see another engagements between these countries, the cybersecurity is also proportional to the spendings. USA, good cybersecurity, so is China, so has USA. So UK and Russia, Netherlands, all the European countries, but India ranks very low here, right? This is where I want to show you this particular answer, which I keep mentioning to you. One answer, and you can see how it can lead to so many ways of using it. I keep talking about what are the ways in which cybersecurity can be handled. This is an answer that I had written myself. Mitigation strategies, innovation in architecture, zero trust, zero access. Do not give access in case there is no trust. Similarly, least privilege principle, data minimization, multiple factor authentication. This is individual level. For critical information infrastructure protection. What is critical information infrastructure? For example, we have discussed the feature news on this. Financial architecture, right? Military architecture, defense architecture, installations, important government installations, government buildings, right? Energy infrastructure, all of them are critical infrastructure, right? Banking, insurance companies, right? Our technology driven companies, all are critical information infrastructure. So for them, National Cyber Coordination Center exists, the CERT does exist, they must be protected, right? Similarly, institutional presence, we must have a chief information security officer in every organization. This is a mandate, right? We must keep having the trials for cyber crisis management in every institution. Cyber crisis management, how to report it, how to immediately respond to it, how to shut down the databases, right? And preventive measures, digital literacy campaigns, periodic audit of these software, they must be done. Swachhata Kendra app, it is available free of cost for all of us. We can put our devices online and we can have the malware and other kind of these issues removed from our systems, right? So start looking at the perspective of how you will be able to answer a question. This will be the reality check. This will be the reality check for you, because UPSC will be asking questions and you have to respond to it, and it's good. Your progress is quite good. This is what I am saying. Keep up with it, keep up with the pace, and you will be able to see a lot of changes. All right. So changing nature of the warfare in context of Russia Ukraine, we will see a lot of updates right here. Malacca Strait. Okay, thank you. Hima says there were issue of Xiaomi phone not showing weather of Arunachal Pradesh when India banned these Chinese apps. Virendan says USA is fearing because China began to make Apple phone in 20,000 rupees or less. Okay, what else? Coco Island is given by India to Myanmar. I think now China has a base there. Okay. China's plan to make presence marked in Atlantic, Pacific, Indian and Arctic Ocean. So this is not against only India. This is largely driven towards increasing Chinese Belt and Road Initiative throughout the whole world. Also stretching up to European economies, spending to trillions of dollars, Chinese economy. And there is also a counterforce, not only economic, but multiple ways. If Russia is doing it against Ukraine, China has similar kind of words for Taiwan. And Taiwan is the first target, but then we would have other targets. And India is one of the economies. You look at GDP, you will be able to correlate if India stands or not. Yes, India does stand. Our population is growing. We are a major force in some ways. We have a major demand. It is only growing with time. In next century, India will be one of the powers, major powers in Asia. So this is the way China is countering through multiple ways. Questions will be asked on this. Once you get into civil services, these are the things that will be taught. Right. So hermetic viper. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for remembering this. You can use this piece of information when you write answers, and you must be in the practice. That is why I keep asking, you keep revising this all often, right? So that it's there in your mind. It must be there, and the pinnacle of it should be in during the times of examination. The peak of it achieved during those times. Okay. So Netra says, yes, Mumbai power blackout. Absolutely, I mentioned that. Niranjan, women, we are speaking of women because yesterday was International Women Day, and these were some components of the conversation we had missed yesterday. That is the reason. Okay. So getting back to this discussion, Army Chief Mr. General Narvane has suggested that India should scale up its cybersecurity architecture and increase its readiness for information warfare. See, already a threat to India. All right. Now this is in context of Ukraine, but then you understand that India is also facing a similar issue, right? Not only this, biological weapons, chemical weapons, use of NBC, nuclear, biological and chemical threats, NBC threats, right? These threats have been exchanged between North Korea and USA, between Ukraine and Russia, and possibly in future we would see this with other countries also. You know the indication, right? So what are the new forms of warfare? Cyber attacks, social media be used, data mining, AI, psychological tactical attacks, terrorism through non-state actors, right? So Pakistan had an Afghan Taliban that they would favor, but Pakistan would not favor Pakistan Taliban. Imagine that. So conflicts through non-state actors, biological and chemical warfare. USA itself used chemical warfare in Vietnam War, right? So there were allegations of usage of chemical warfare in Syria as well, right? Although chemical weapons were far to be found in Iraq, but then there were allegations, right, imposed, but then they were not found. So these are the ways in which strategy also plays a role: biological, chemical, nuclear warfare, diplomatic warfare, wolf war diplomacy, right there, economic warfare, right, debt trap warfare, all of them. Start using these words here, right? The possible reasons for changing nature of warfare: technological progress. People don't want to fight hand combat. They don't want to fight man to man or woman to woman. They want to fight through technology. Political changes. People, both the political parties, the one in ruling and the one in opposition, both of them are saying that defense of the nation is of the prime importance. And not even looking at, giving a blind eye to the problems or the issues inside the country. This is happening throughout the whole world, and this is the reason that there is a changing ways in which the war is happening, spending in unconventional ways. So the number of soldiers have reduced at the war front. We studied that we studied a few days back, I remember that Chinese number of soldiers, they have strategically decreased and they have automated many of their services. Indian number of soldiers is not less, it is quite high, 12-13 lakh soldiers, active duty. China also has a similar number, but China has a bigger terrain, China has a bigger influence. So how is China able to handle this? Through automated weapon systems, through automated structures. Soldiers and citizens less being used, right? Israel is one of the pioneers there. Information flow, another state of warfare, insurgent movements and terrorist organizations, and all that we discussed in the slides there, right? Is it impacting India? Absolutely. We have to not only, this is the 2.5 front war that we speak of now, 2.5 front, Chinese, Pakistan front, and then we have half front inside, that is left wing extremism and all of the things associated with it. All right, impact the changing nature of the war, the rights of the people, unstable geopolitical situation, absolutely, right? Globalization, protectionism, nationalism, all of them are impacts of it. Denying victory. India's strategy, multiple strategy needs to be adopted. So every point that we have mentioned is a strategy in itself. Each of these points, strategic, financial, psychological, information, space, cyber, biological, economic warfare, each of them have to be countered with increasing economic presence, having a better strategy, right? When they have a string of pearl, we will have the diamond necklace for them, right? Similarly, cyber, we must increase our resilience. What should we impose these wars? There has been no question on those lines, so we shouldn't look at that, right? But what should we talk of? We should talk of becoming more resilient. We should not talk of imposing these wars. We should talk of becoming more resilient. Space capacities, we should develop at least, if not more than, but then equal to the opposition. So ASAT test we did conduct. Informational warfare, we must be ready to counter the disinformation being spread, counter fake news, right? So this is what should be our strategy. We should not talk at reimposing these kind of wars, right? Why? Because that is not the question asked, right? So this is the update that we have for this particular feature news. What did we cover today? We covered various aspects of the hybrid warfare, important article from the perspective of international relations, internal security, in governance strategies, economy of India, all of them, paper 2, paper 3, you would be able to find such questions, right? Even geography will relate to geography as well, right? So we studied the kinds of hybrid warfare that are happening around the world these days. We understood the examples of it, real-time example. We also understood the cyber attacks and the increase of the same happening in our country. We understood the scope of these attacks happening against India, through strategy, through economy, through financial mechanisms, through political exchanges, through diplomacy, through information warfare, through cyber terrorism, through whatnot, multiple ways. Are we able to cope up? We are just barely managing. We have to ramp up, right? So the impact of this war on India, Indian economy, India's strategy, India's political, socio-political and cultural history, all of them, what is the impact of it? And what should be the strategies to handle this? We must understand each of the aspects. This will cover far too many questions for us, far too many, not just one or two. I have showed this to you about the last year paper. If you look at the last year paper, you will find similar relevance here. If you look at the previous year, 2019 paper, similar relevance. So point being, start looking at these things from the perspective of doing something really big, right? That is clearing the examination. You're converting your dreams into reality through this. So please, it's a request, please abide by it and start attempting questions. And I'm really happy that you people are doing wonders there. There has been a change in the form of warfare. Is it so? Discuss. Yes. So while you mentioned that there has been a change in the form of warfare, you must also acknowledge that traditional warfare has also got its own share to play, right? That is the reason that India is spending more in defense capabilities, right? Start quoting some people of relevance. Yes, if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. What is the question? Any question? None of the questions here. If you have questions, please post them down. We will get back to you. Kanupriya says, technology driver, border security user drones. Yes, Kanupriya. Start throwing the weapons that you have. What are your weapons? Your weapons are the words that you have learned. Your weapons are the examples that you use. Your weapons are the cases that we speak of, or the graphs and the statistics that we discuss, right? All credible. So Amlanopedia says, good night, sir. Good night, Amlan. Good night. Welcome. But please remember, the context is decisive. If you look at the context of this time that you spent through the perspective of clearing the examination, this is sufficient. This is sufficient. But then if you look at the context from understanding, awareness, general perspective, if it was meant to be so general, then everybody would be viewing this. This is a little technical. To be able to, this is technical in a way that it will help you write better answers. But everybody in common parlance would not be in this competition, right? The competition for the prime ministership of any country is hardly 2 to 3 people for one post. You look at the competition for chief ministership, maybe 5-6 people. Competition for becoming the member of legislative assembly, MLA, or would be maybe 10-12 people, 15 people, that's it. Looking for becoming an IS officer, competition would be in a few thousands in main examination and a few lakhs in the main examination. But if you look at SSC examination, competition is to the tune of 50 lakhs. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong here. And looking at the tune of getting through other examinations, not to degrade the nature of any examination, but the competition is huge. There is always a room for excellence, but for that we have to go the extra mile, and let's do it together for you. All right. So remember, note making and revising, that is your part. We cannot do that. So please do that. Amlan, Bhabani, Ashish, Netra, Hima, Vivek, Anupriya, Kriti, Niranjan, Santosh. Good night, all of you. Santosh says, sir, next class when? Santosh, welcome. We will have the next class tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. We get into answer writing, and after that we start the current affairs discussion. And this is the second video on which we have the on the feature news for the day, right? Niranjan has a request. Please upload current affairs on time. Niranjan, not to worry. While the time it is getting uploaded, you're with me, or are you multitasking like Amlan? So nothing to worry, Niranjan. See, the exam will be conducted once a year, and an hour or here matters. It matters. In case you are catching a train, a couple of minutes are important. In case you are running a sprint, a couple of seconds matter. In case it is an examination like UPSC, one day here and there should not matter as much. But then yes, we will work on this, and we are already doing it. At times it gets delayed, right? So Tiasha, good night. Kim, good night. Santosh, welcome. I will see you all tomorrow evening. Thank you for participation. If you like this initiative, share some love. So likes, comments and shares. Good night.